What is up, everyone? Welcome back to On the Clock, episode 10, double digits. We all have glasses on for this episode. Only one of us is wearing real glasses. We'll let you guess which one that is. But anyway, let's get into it. As always, we have Donovan's Top 10, and we're bringing back Built Like, and then a new segment, High Risk, Low Reward. We'll get into everything once we get there. So let's start rolling Donovan's Top 10.
All right, last week we went cornerbacks. We're going opposite of them. We're talking the wide receivers. I wanted to wait till we were about as close to the draft process as we could get because there's so many guys per usual in this position that I could talk about. And it was hard to narrow down that 8, 9, 10 range. But this is the final list I came up with. Let's get into it. Number 10, I have Chris Brazzell III out of Tennessee. He is currently sitting at 61st on my big board. He is a 6'5" outside X receiver, incredible break on routes. He's going to take these super long strides, which helps, his speed factor. But the one reason I had him at 10 is that he wasn't very fast. But in terms of green flags, he has a ton of them. His catch radius, it stands out, which complements how good his hands are. His size gives him a clear advantage as a run blocker. He's a big-time red zone threat, and he's crazy impressive against press coverage, which you wouldn't really expect with how big this guy is. But he's got really good body control in these deep balls. We saw it against Georgia. He had 3 touchdowns. This guy is going to be a big-time threat in the league. Move on. Number 9, Bryce Lance out of North Dakota State University. Brother of Trey Lance, I believe. If not, I don't know where I came up with that.
I think he's my brother. He just went to North Dakota.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
I think he's a brother.
Wide receiver 9. He's 57th on my big board. He's actually the most recent player that I've watched, and he made the cut. I literally changed the list last night. But insane over-the-top speed. He's one of the primary deep threats in this class, and similar to Brazzell, he has those long strides that he takes, but he actually is like super fast as well. You know what I mean? If you know what I mean. He really thrives in like man coverage, cover zero looks. He's a big threat after the catch as well. He saw a few handoffs, jet sweep type of things, and he's crazy impressive with the ball in his hands. His ball tracking is a top trait of his. The red flag, the reason I have him at 9, he went to North Dakota State, and we've seen it. He played not that high level of competition that these other guys have had, and he isn't that great of a route runner, I thought. But the speed is something you definitely want to watch out for. I think there's a very high chance that this guy gets taken before round 3, but definitely on day 2. Moving in to my top 8, at number 8, I have Zachariah Branch out of Georgia. He is sitting at 55th on my big board. He primarily played in the slot, but he did spend some time on the outside. It felt like his routes were almost more curved. You know, he's trying to slip in between these gaps more than run like a hard cut route that we see from a lot of these guys. But he is super shifty and can make those hard cuts when he has the ball in his hands. He was used a lot for screens or motion in the backfield. Like his average depth of routes was 2.57 yards. You're not getting a big deep threat guy. And his in-game speed I didn't really think translated to his true speed, which could be deceiving. His change of direction was probably his best quality, in my opinion. But just given that, what I was saying, his in-game speed, sorry, I lost my train of thought, and I wasn't a huge fan of his route running. We're going to have him sitting at 8. Number 7 out of Louisville, a guy I'm a huge fan of, Chris Bell. He's my wide receiver 7. He's 39th on my big board. This guy was a projected top 20 pick going into the year, and he played like it. He's another receiver in this class with great size. He's a huge threat in short yardage situation. His feet are fast, his cuts are sharp, and his release is polished, and he has killer downhill speed. Plus, he's 6'2", so he can be a deep threat. The reason he's a wide receiver 7 and not a top 20 pick, he tore his ACL in November. And you hate to see it. He's apparently ahead of his recovery schedule, which is good for him, but he did not participate in any of the, draft activities, pro day, combine, all that sort of thing. Moving in to the top 6, Omar Cooper Jr. out of Indiana, the national champion. He is 27th on my big board. That means I think this guy is a first-round pick. He is super impressive as a blocking receiver, which you wouldn't really expect given his size. But as a receiver, he's primarily playing in the slot, very shifty, runs very quick, precise routes. Got a lot of work from screen passes, similar to Zachariah Branch, but he has great acceleration, and I thought what really stood out was his catch radius for a guy his size, which I'm going to talk about another guy who I thought had the same trait in just a minute. and he was third in the country in receiving touchdowns. He was a huge scoring threat, and one of the main reasons that Indiana was able to bring home that national championship. You know the drill. That wraps up 10 through 6. Tyler, anyone I left out?
Yeah, I would say maybe Jeremy Bernard. I'd say so he had a good season at Alabama, and he's physical and an intelligent wide receiver. He can give defenses a little bit of a fit working in the middle of the field, and I think he could be a solid wide receiver 2 or 3 and be complementary alongside another threat or already established number 1 receiver in the NFL.
Yeah, I wasn't too big on Bernard. He was actually my 13. I'll give a shout out. Brendan Thompson, who I talked about last episode, was 11 for me, and Skylar Bell was 12 out of UConn. So let's get into the top 5. At number 5, I have Casey Concepcion out of Texas A&M. 24th on my big board. Super speedy, insanely fast, great release, killer route runner, really shifty and quick instincts. And I could definitely see him playing as a full-time slot guy in the league. It feels like he's just open on every route that he runs, and he's great at getting separation as well as great after the catch. His best trait, similar to Omar Cooper Jr., who I just talked about, is his catch radius for someone his size, and it feels like he could really stand out with all the size that's in this class besides Makai Lemon, who's going to be towards the top. He's a more physical but also speedy small wide receiver, and I think that really helps him stand out. He's going to be a first-round pick, if I'd have to say. Again, 24th on my big board. Top 4, at number 4, out of Washington, Denzel Boston, wide receiver 4, 21st on my big board. I don't think he'll fall there, but I think this could be a dream pick for the Patriots, given that they lost Stephon Diggs. They need size at wide receiver, and his last name's Boston. I mean, how much more perfect does it get? He is huge. I mean, this class has size. He is 6'4", 209 pounds. And he's not incredibly fast, similar to Chris Brazzell, but he makes up for it with how long his legs are. Really, really good route runner, fluid hips and sharp footwork for a guy his speed. But his hands are so impressive, and so is his ball tracking. He's got a clean release, like I said, and he can run block, which I would hope he can. He's 6'4". Tyler, is there a possibility for a guy like Boston to get lost in the shuffle, considering how much size there is in this class? And he's sort of in that 4 to 6 range.
Yeah, I feel like he can potentially get lost in the mix a little bit, but I don't think that it will affect him enough that he'll fall anywhere past like early second round. I don't think he'll go anywhere further than that. But I still think he should be a first round pick, and the only reason I can see him really falling into the second round is just like team needs in the back half of the first round. But I don't know. I don't think it'll affect him too much, but we could see him fall a little bit.
Yeah, I think if he can end up in New England, that's a dream scenario for them. But let's get in the top 3. I feel like everyone paying attention to the draft probably knows most of the guys we talk about. You definitely know these guys. And this order might surprise some people. At 3, I have the Biletnikoff Award winner, Makai Lemon. Again, my wide receiver 3 is 13th on my big board. He runs very precise routes. He can stop on a dime. Really good release against press coverage. He was used, everywhere, outside, in the slot. He's got good hands. And he's not afraid to go down and run block if needed. But we've kind of seen this guy all over the first round. Tyler, straight up, where do you think he ends up?
I think he's going to be a top 15 pick still. He's definitely going to be inside of that area. Maybe top 10. I don't know about that. But like you said, he was the Biletnikoff winner this year. He's still a great option to pick up. He's going to be a dangerous threat wherever he goes, and he can't be overlooked. But he's definitely still a top 15 pick, regardless of where he's being mocked right now or whatnot. It would be a crime for him to fall out.
So no chance for your Steelers over there to get him?
No, I don't think so. Not this time.
Well, let's get in the top 2. I feel like a lot of people have Lemon at either 2 or 1. At 2, for me, a guy I've been on since the beginning of the draft process, it is Jordan Tyson out of Arizona State. He is 12th on my big board, just 1 spot above Lemon. But, I mean, this guy is just incredible. He's 6'2", and given that, you're thinking he's probably, a deep threat, which he is, but not more of a physical. He's more of a precise route runner, elite speed, acceleration after the catch. He's showing flashes of being an elite route runner, but can be inconsistent on some routes, so take that for what you will. I think his release is super crispy. I even wrote that it reminds me of Tyreek Hill, just the release, not him as a whole. Really good catch radius. The reason I have him at 2, absolutely horrendous injury history. 2022, he tore his ACL, MCL, PCL. 2023, he was recovering from that, only played in 3 games all year. 2024, fractured collarbone. 2025, had some hamstring issues. Doesn't sound that bad, but because of that, he wasn't able to participate in on-field drills at the Combine or at his pro day. And if it wasn't for that, he might be my wide receiver 1 if he was fully healthy. But how much of an impact will that injury background play, Tyler, in this year's draft?
I think, especially the hamstring injury occurring so close to the draft this year, it should play a factor in where he goes. I said it in other episodes that injuries, especially this close to the draft, tend to make teams a little bit more cautious about picking these types of players. But personally, though, even with the injury, I think what he displayed on the field this past season shouldn't be overlooked and shouldn't take away from what he's done and where he's at. I don't think I can see him falling out of the first round because of the injury, but I can see him falling behind Lemon and being maybe even in the late first round area because of this injury, especially, like I said, with the hamstring one. But I can't see him falling out of the first round just because, like I said, like what he displayed on the field really shouldn't take away from where he goes.
So maybe he ends up in Pittsburgh then.
Maybe that would be him and Metcalf. That would be a little bit.
I think he's still top 15. I think Tyson is still top 15. I think Lemon could jump him just because all those injuries, but I think he's still going to be top 15 anyway, even though he may get jumped by Lemon. And then obviously your number 1 was going to be ahead of him. Go ahead with
Maybe
that.
he'll be on a plane to Baltimore, Jordan
Maybe.
Tyson. But let's get into my number 1. Everyone knows who it is at this point, I'm sure. It's Carnell Tate out of Ohio State. 8th on my big board, top 10. Very fluid routes, very smooth hips. Speed is killer, quick feet. Great height, little light. Ooh, that was nice. Nasty outside release, though. And if you're one-on-one with him, it's over. He's probably the best deep threat in this class. The only worry that I have for him is Jeremiah Smith. I wouldn't necessarily call him a wide receiver 2. Maybe it was 1A and 1B. But the fact of the matter is, he spent a lot of time on the field with Jeremiah Smith. Tyler, is that giving you any worry that he might have played more of a wide receiver 2 role this year?
Not really. Personally, I think it's not really going to be that big of a deal. Ohio State wide receivers that are this good hardly flop in the NFL, and I think Tate's kind of a guy that can do it all, regardless of where he played this year, even if he was technically a wide receiver too. I still think, like you said, he's the number 1 wide receiver in this class, and he's going to be an immediate weapon for any team that picks him up. But yeah, I don't think it'll be too much of a problem or anything to worry about.
I think being wide receiver 2 helps because like Jeremiah Smith still like the great Ohio State wide receiver that he is. So Carnell Tate was just sitting behind them. They were kind of the dynamic duo. Jeremiah Smith only had 3 more touchdowns than Carnell Tate. He had 12. Then Carnell Tate had 9. So I think it'll help him more than anything that being the wide receiver 2 behind Jeremiah Smith.
I guess what I meant was lining up more against those corner 2s than the alpha corner 1s that they were seeing, like D'Angelo Pons for Indiana, or I can't even think off the top of my head who they played, but you know what I mean. Yeah. But that wraps up my top 10. I think, no, we have one more top 10 next week, but second to last top 10.
Oh, yes.
I'm sad.
All right, let's move into Built Like. We have prospects, and we are comparing the prospects to NFL players. So let's start with Tyler. He is doing the safeties for today.
For my first comparison, I have Caleb Downs and Budda Baker. Caleb Downs is kind of described as like this modern-day prototype for the position, and he can be elite. He has great IQ. He's versatile, and he can be a game changer. Him and Budda Baker are very similar because they both rely on, like I said, these elite instincts and their IQ. They have quick reactions on the field to the plays, and they both play bigger than they actually are in terms of size. They're aggressive. They're effective in their run support, and they both are emotional leaders. They can bring good leadership and really help set the tone for whatever defense they're playing on.
All right. Let's head over to Donovan. He's doing the quarterbacks for Built Like.
I got the gunslingers for today. Number 1, I'll start by saying I think these are all about day 2 or very early day 3 guys. Start with LSU quarterback Garrett Nussmeier. We haven't talked about him too much on the show. I know I talked about him a little bit after the Senior Bowl, but my comparison for him is Buccaneers quarterback Baker Mayfield. They're both aggressive, swaggy. They play with a little swagger. They're going to attack those tight windows, which isn't always necessarily a good thing. They don't have tremendous arms, but they throw like they do. But they can operate offenses on their own. Something I really saw that I liked out of Nussmeier was his accuracy over the middle. And I think Nussmeier, he's coming off an injury. I think that is going to affect just because he's not an amazing prospect overall. But I think you are getting good value out of him in late day 2, especially if he's early day 3. I think this guy, he can go in and win you some games. Maybe not a full-time starter, but one of those high-level backups in the league.
All right, yeah. Back over to Tyler for his other safeties.
For my second comparison, I have Emmanuel McNeil Warren out of Toledo, comparing to the Steelers' latest addition, Jaquan Brisker. I think they're comparable because they're both physical, they're downhill safeties, and they make their biggest impact near the line of scrimmage. Like Brisker, McNeil shows strong instincts with his run support. He takes good angles of the ball, and he isn't afraid to deliver hard hits. He can really be like the hammer instead of the nail. And they, like I said, they're also versatile in where they play their position. They can cover blitz, move around the defense, and they can really fit into a hybrid kind of defense with these modern NFL schemes that go on. So I think they're both comparable, and that's why.
Yep. All right, let's keep rolling here. Donovan, tell us about your second quarterback here.
All right, yeah, this one is going to be a bit different because I actually have 2 comparisons for him. It's Penn State quarterback Drew Aller. And I have 2 because I'm not sure there is one quarterback that you can really compare this guy to. At his best, he can be Chargers quarterback Justin Herbert. Crazy arm strength and physical tools. Going to stay in the pocket, be that pocket passer, calm demeanor, and they can be dominant if everything's clicking. You're looking at timing and confidence. But at his worst, I don't think it's a stretch to say that he could be Will Levis. You still have that size, that arm strength, those physical tools, and you're going to make a few of those wow throws, but overall, your accuracy and your decision-making is inconsistent. You're scrambling around nervous in the pocket, and you're hesitant to make those big-time throws that could, elevate your career.
Yeah, I like that one a lot because you have the 2 comparisons there. Really makes sense. There's a ceiling and the floor.
Yeah.
And neither one is bad, so I really like that one. Yeah, Will Levis.
Well, Will Levis is a career
right.
backup,
He's
so
all right. He was good for a little bit.
I'm sure he'd rather be Herbert in that comparison.
Sure. All right, Tyler, tell us about your other safety.
For my last comparison, I have Dylan Thieneman and Kyle Hamilton. They're both versatile guys that can play in a lot of different positions in the secondary. They both have really good football IQ on the field. They're both effective in the run support. And Thieneman and Hamilton are guys that can align in deep safety. They can align up in the slot. They can align even as a linebacker. And they can disguise coverages effectively. And they're both effective tacklers, and they can be compared to high safety or like linebacker hybrid type of guys. So because of Thieneman's ability to be, like I said, versatile and be kind of like that safety linebacker hybrid, I can see him being having a similar career, very similar build or play style to Kyle Hamilton.
Absolutely. I mean, Kyle Hamilton's my GOAT, my glorious king, Kyle Hamilton. But
Serious right now.
but I think Thieneman, he can get it done of being versatile. I think there is a role for him being the next versatile safety in the NFL. All right, Donovan, tell us about your last quarterback here.
All right, my last quarterback is pretty much decided to be the QB2. This is Tyler's boy, Ty Simpson, and I'm comparing him to 49ers quarterback Brock Purdy. They both are going to be relying on timing, processing, decision-making, sort of that more system quarterback. They're going to operate efficiently in that right system, but they can put some zip on those throws, especially over the middle. Their arm strength is good. It's good enough. It's not elite. And they can survive outside of the pocket, but it's not going to be their number one go-to move.
All right. And then I'm going to contribute to my lone star pick here. Just one prospect, highly ranked, and I chose for this one Notre Dame running back Jeremiah Love. And the one that I saw fit him most was current Saints running back Alvin Kamara. Smooth and effortless running. Love glides the same way Kamara does. Not super soft, not super choppy or stiff. Just very fluid movements everywhere. Elite burst in space. Both can turn a small crease into a big play instantly. I was just watching Love's game against Pitt earlier in class because I was really bored. Don't tell my professor. But he's very patient too. He got stopped in the backfield, just waited a little bit, bounced it outside, picked up a first down. Also, there is a receiving upside. I was watching his highlights again, and he could be the last option to catch a pass and then pick up some yards. And Kamara is also a very good receiver. Not purely power based as well. More of the vision. They both have great vision, patience, and sudden acceleration more than brute force. So that was my Lone Star for this one.
I do think that's an interesting comparison because I think there's a very, very high chance that Love ends up getting drafted to the Saints and working with Kamara.
I was thinking for Tyler, too, when he compared Downs to Buda Baker.
Yeah.
Could be on the same team as well.
On the Cardinals.
All right, let's move into our last segment for today. High risk, low reward. These are prospects that are ranked to go first round, early second, but we're not completely sold on them. Maybe they could be a bust or just not produced to their full extent. So let's get into this one. Tyler, go ahead.
So my first one, guy I'm very critical of, Drew Aller. Everyone says, oh, he has a good arm. He can really sling it downfield. I have him as going as a day 3 pick, but I just think he's a huge risk. He had a bad season in the games that he did play before he eventually got injured. He had that season-ending injury, so that could be concerning a little bit. He definitely needs significant long-term development. He's not going to be a guy that's going to go in year 1, year 2, maybe even year 3. But and I also think he really just he melts away in the big moments. So you look at the semifinal against Notre Dame, interception on the final drive. And then you look at their big game this year at Oregon. This was their chance to get that elusive win in Beaver Stadium. Throws an interception in overtime to end the game. I feel like he just kind of always melts away in the big moments. I don't think he's built for it personally. And like I said, with the injury concerns, some disappointing stats, and like I said, the long-term development, I don't see the desire to pick him higher than day 3.
I'm gonna come at you for
Oh
this
gosh,
because
here we go.
I
knew this was coming.
well, you know I'm a Drew Aller guy. I just talked about him, and I said at his worst he can be Will Levis, but I think you said he needs significant long-term development, which I agree with 100% of the way. I think if he ends up on a team like the Rams, he could end up being that next quarterback for them behind Stafford. But I think that's almost proving to be the opposite because this is high risk, low reward. I think that would almost be low risk, high reward because this quarterback class is very weak. Outside of Mendoza, you don't even have another first rounder unless you're including Ty Simpson, which I would say most people aren't at this point. So I'd say in a quarterback class that is not very good, if you can get him in the 3rd or 4th round and have him sit, he's going to be a threat, man. If he can be developed, I think he can be a long-term starter for an NFL team. Maybe I'm just biased. I don't know.
Maybe, but I think
you guys know I'm a Drew Aller guy. I had to come at him for that.
I think that's valid.
It's because I personally have seen him going in like the 3rd round maybe.
Yeah.
So
what happens when the Steelers take him with 76?
Won't happen.
I've seen it.
Not worried about it. We have Will Howard.
Mike McCarthy, the QB whisperer.
All right, Donovan, tell us about your first one for high risk, low reward.
I've talked about this guy before. It's Alabama tackle Caden Proctor, absolute animal, beast of a pass protector. I do like him a lot, but when it comes to it, he is super raw. He tends to overcommit on angles, especially on inside protections. He just isn't polished. He's inconsistent. And I could definitely see a team reach on him given his size and his strength and not pan out how they want him to. I think when Jeff Stoutland was still with the Eagles, he would have been a great fit for us at 23, which I've talked about before. Not anymore. I don't know much about this new guy, but I don't think it's worth reaching on a prospect when you could get a guy like Blake Miller who can come in next year and be that starter. I think Proctor is going to take some development and is going to take the right guy, or it's going to be a high risk and a low reward.
Yep. All right. Yeah. I was talking about the Eagles with Stoutland, but yeah, that is valid. He just lost one of the greatest offensive line coaches.
Yeah, bro.
Oh, whatever.
Now I'm sad.
Whatever. I'm sorry. Had to bring up that trauma. All right, Tyler, tell us about second one here.
Second one is a guy we've talked about a lot on this show, Spencer Fano. I know Donovan's been very critical of him. He's touted as a first-round player, but he's not very good at picking up blitzes. He doesn't have the best technique, and he plays outside a little bit, which can be taken advantage of by high-level NFL players. So, I mean, if you taken him in the first round, he's definitely going to be a very high risk, and as we have said, it could be a low reward with him.
Yeah, I've been critical of him, but I actually do have him in. I did some rearranging on my big board, and I have him at 23, which is the Eagles' pick. So, if we take him, I can't complain there because I think that's inside the range. So,
Yeah. All right, Donovan. I'm seeing your number 2 here. Tell me
Yeah.
about it. Tell me about it.
it's Cassius Howell, edge rusher out of A&M. When we did top 10, or when I did, I guess, top 10 edge rushers, I had him at 3. I've now moved him down to 4, switching him with Hakeem Mesidor out of Miami. And I was never really a huge fan of him once I dove into him, but he had so much hype around him that I really felt like I couldn't put him any lower than that. But honestly, I think his speed is overrated. He tends to rely a lot more on his power, which isn't always there. And he's kind of just all over the first round as of recently. And we see those guys tend sometimes to get picked a little earlier than they should. And I think an early selection could be looked at as a reach in a few years' time. I tried to think of a comparison off the top of my head there, but I couldn't think of one, so we'll just leave it at that.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of it.
An edge rusher, just a guy that is kind of all over the first round and, ends
I
up...
don't know.
I don't know. I couldn't come up with one off the top of my head.
I got nothing.
If I think of one, I'll just shout it out. Even if Tyler's mid-talk, I'll just shout it out.
Anyway, Tyler, go ahead.
For the last one, I think we might have found that edge rusher, T.J. Parker out of Clemson. He's kind of a project. He has a limited pass rush ceiling. He doesn't consistently show that he has an elite first step or an ability to corner tightly, which can limit his pass rush toolbox, his ceiling as a difference maker. I've seen him mocked in the late first round. I think he can go in the 20 to 40 area, but if he goes in the first round, it can be a little bit of a risk. He kind of regressed a little bit this year, and that might be touted to Clemson's struggles this year. But overall, I mean, I think he regressed a little too far. Maybe we see him go to the Patriots. He could fit under the leadership of Vrabel. I just don't know. He's going to be, like I said, he's a project, and if he goes in the first round, it's going to be definitely a high-risk pick for sure.
Lucas Van Ness. Sorry, I just thought of one. I wasn't going to interrupt you, but
That's valid. No,
2023, it was all over mock drafts. He ended up going 13 in the Packers, and I was a huge fan of him. He did not pan out. I'll just say that. He has not been very good.
I was thinking Greg Rousseau for the Bills.
Okay, yeah.
But-
He ended up going late, though,
Yeah.
or like mid to late.
Whatever.
We'll see.
Whatever. All right, Donovan. I'm seeing number 3 here. I'm curious because he is ranked he's ranked a little high on PFF, so tell me what's
He
going
is
on here.
11th
Yeah.
on PFF's big board, and Tyler just talked about him and built like it's Dylan Thieneman out of Oregon, and I do think he is, definitely a good player, not as good as he's being hyped up to be. He skyrocketed after the combine, and I think there is truth to what we saw in the combine that he can be great. He has those great physical tools, but honestly, I don't know that I've ever seen a player jump from where he was, which was like 40s, 50s on big board, and now he's 11 on like that. I didn't think the combine was that good. I mean, we saw guys like Sonny Styles go from like 8 to like 4, which I actually had that jump as well. But he had an unreal combine. I don't think Thieneman's combine was as productive as people are making it out to be. And I don't think he's that good as a safety as people are making him out to be. I think it's a very close race between him and Emmanuel McNeil-Warren. But a lot of people have Thieneman going top 18. I think it's a little bit of a reach. I have him at 19 on my big board, but that was following all the hype. It's not going to be final, and we'll go over my big board in one of these next few episodes before the draft, so we'll see that then. But he's my last high risk, low reward.
Yep. All right.
No game today.
No game. Anything else?
No, we have 2 more episodes.
There's 2 more.
16
Until the
days
draft.
out. They're putting up the stage right now.
Yeah, and there's gonna be
getting to be
there's
that
gonna be a
time.
million people in the city of Pittsburgh.
It's getting real.
It's getting very real.
We're
All right,
good. We're
take us
good.
out.
All right. That's going to do it for On the Clock this week. Episode 10, glasses episode. Tyler's the one with real glasses. Donovan's are just posers. But whatever. We will see you next week. Thanks for tuning in.